Welcome back to the Barrel Talk Podcast. I am back with another episode. In this episode, we are doing an official NBA Finals preview. Spurs, Knicks. I think we have a really good, interesting series on our hand. This is actually a rematch from the NBA Cup that happened this year where the Knicks beat the San Antonio Spurs in the finals of the NBA Cup. But I want to start this episode out saying that we are in store for some beautiful basketball. This has been a phenomenal playoffs. I feel like we've gotten some really good. We have, I think I saw a stat was like the most game sevens ever in the course of the playoffs. Yes, some has been better than others, but I think overall, Spurs, OKC delivered. We saw the Wolves upset the Denver Nuggets earlier in the playoffs. We saw game sevens between Magic, Pistons, and then Cavs, Raptors in the first round as well. Like, I feel like we're in store for an all-time great finals. This is a finals rematch from a while ago as well, but let's start out this episode talking about the New York Knicks because this is a team that's been off for some time now. San Antonio Spurs won 7 games with the OKC Thunder, and the Knicks haven't lost a game since the first round, swept the second round, and swept into the conference finals to get to this point in the NBA Finals. Now they're going on the road to play San Antonio Spurs. Game 1 is in San Antonio. By the time you're seeing this, it will be Tuesday morning, so you're seeing this about a whole day before the day of Game 1. Starting out with the Knicks, I think this is a really good matchup for the Knicks for a couple of different reasons. Just some things that I saw in that OKC series that make me interested in how the Knicks can kind of battle the defensive impact of Wemby and these physical defenders and Castle, Harper, De'Aaron Fox, and like that, just this whole defensive unit that the San Antonio Spurs are. I think the Knicks are a good enough offensive team and more balanced than OKC was with all these injuries to Dub, AJ Mitchell. They might not have the ball handling capabilities in terms of kind of being a little weaker at that position to compare to like the Spurs who have Harper, Castle, and Fox, and OKC when they're fully healthy has Dub, AJ Mitchell, SGA. But I do think the Knicks offense is so balanced in the way they're playing now with Cat being the hub of this offense. And to me, I have a key for both teams, 2 players that I think that are the keys for this series. I think Karl-Anthony Towns is the key for the New York Knicks. If Karl-Anthony Towns plays how he's been playing against this San Antonio Spurs defense, it's going to be very hard for the Spurs to kind of sell out to Jalen Brunson like they sold out to SGA in the conference finals. My meaning behind that is when you're looking at no Dub, no AJ Mitchell, with Wemby backside Roman, those guards can be all kinds of pressure on a guy like SGA who is ball dominant already, but with nobody else to really kick it to and to get him off the ball and to really just relax and not feel like he has the pressure of the entire offense on his shoulders, it's a lot easier for them to do that, right? I don't think that's the case with the Knicks because of the way they're playing with Karl-Anthony Towns being more of the hub, but also when you look at how the Spurs were defending SGA in that series, yes, you're always going to have Wemby backside help for the most part protecting the rim, so it's already going to be hard enough to get into the paint, but to throw a small on somebody like Chet that they were doing in that series, like throwing a Vassell, Keldon Johnson his way, makes it a lot easier so Wemby can just kind of stay in the paint with iHeart. And he can kind of do that with Mitch Rob a little bit, but putting Cat at the 5 makes things super interesting. Because there's going to be a couple of different feel-out games, feel-out moments, and stretches throughout the first 2 games of the series. But I think the Knicks' best lineup is going to be Jalen Brunson, Deuce McBride, Mikal, OG, Cat. I think that's going to be their best lineup. Now, Mitch Robinson as a defender is a good matchup for, obviously, Wemby, in my opinion, with just Mitchell Robinson being a glass cleaner, physical defender. I know he's dealing with the pinky injury as well, but so should be ready to go for game 1. But looking at that lineup that I just said, the Spurs won't be able to defend like they did against OKC with that lineup. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they're not going to be able to throw a small on Karl-Anthony Towns so Wemby can be just roaming, right? Not saying Wemby won't be on Karl-Anthony Towns, but there were situations to where Wemby is kind of just floating in the paint and protecting the paint, right? My whole thing is, if you put Vassell or Keldon Johnson on Karl-Anthony Towns, he's either putting him in the post or he's shooting over the top. And Karl-Anthony Towns, with the way he's been playing and being the hub of the offense, he himself needs to be balanced as a player and knowing when to get his and when to get others involved. I think finding that balance is going to be the thing that unlocks the series for the New York Knicks because he won't allow them to put a small on him when he's being aggressive. And that's what Chet Holmgren wasn't. He wasn't aggressive. And that's why they were able to live with Vassell, Kelton Johnson, so on and so forth. Those guys guarding Chet because he wasn't aggressive with the ball in his hands. This Karl-Anthony Towns, I don't think is going to be like that, especially if you put a small on him. And I think it's going to be the difference maker. I think they're going to be forced to put Wemby on Cat, who can space the floor with that lineup I just said. And I think that could be the key to getting Wemby out of the paint. The Minnesota Timberwolves did a really good job of this. That I don't think OKC did a good enough job of it because, one, Chet Holmgren didn't make himself a threat offensively enough in this series. But when you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves series, the lineups that I felt like were most effective when it came to the Wolves playing against Wemby when he's on the court is when they went small. But the Timberwolves are a big enough team to where, kind of like the Knicks, they can go small and still not get killed on the glass with those lineups, right? They were able to put Nas and Randall out there in the front court, had a lot more spacing, forced Wemby to get out of the paint to cover the three ball, and that's when I feel like Spurs still won that series, but Minnesota had a little bit more wiggle room offensively. And I think the Knicks can kind of make a lineup kind of like that, to where you put Cat at the 5, who really is a true 5 in this league, but he's so skilled you can put him at the 4, him at the true 5, and then you have OG and Mikal crashing the glass as well. I think things could get really interesting, kind of just battling the Wemby impact on the defensive side of the ball that he provides. And I think Karl-Anthony Towns is the key for the New York Knicks in this series. I also expect a big kind of minute increase from Deuce McBride because they're going to need other guards that can handle the ball, handle pressure full court, and he's just a great defender in his own right. I think Deuce McBride is due for a really good series because I think he's going to have a lot more playing time. Simple as that, because they're going to need somebody else to kind of take the ball out of Jalen Brunson's hands from time to time to kind of give him a breather. And I think them two in this game, because Deuce McBride is a good defender, I think you're going to be able to live with that backcourt as well. But I think the key for the New York Knicks in this series is Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5, because I think that allows them to kind of battle that Wemby defensive impact and kind of get him out of the paint to where driving lanes are open and they can kind of play how they want to play. But when they do have Mitchell Robinson in the game, it might change because Mitchell Robinson isn't a floor spacer. But that's when you need Mitchell Robinson to be that glass cleaner that he is and to be a monster on the boards. Kind of what you saw Isaiah Hartenstein be at certain points in this series where like they just went with a bigger player to put on Wemby. And I think Mitchell Robinson is a better defender than Isaiah Hartenstein. And I think they're kind of hand in hand on the rebounding part. I would go lean Mitchell Robinson just because he's more athletic as a player. So I'm interested to see that matchup between Mitchell Robinson and Wemby. I think that's going to be a key thing in the series too. But when it comes down to winning time, I really do believe Cat needs to be in that lineup at the 5 spot to close games and to kind of open up more variety for the offense for the New York Knicks. So I think the key to the series for the Knicks, Karl-Anthony Towns. Getting into the Spurs side of things, interested to see kind of like I talked about that defense that they were able to throw at OKC with the injuries they had. I don't think they're going to be able to do that with the Knicks. Still going to be really good defensively against the Knicks. I'm not saying the Knicks are miles and years better than OKC's offense, but with no Dub, AJ Mitchell, they can sell out to SGA a lot easier. And I do think this New York Knicks offense is just more balanced, and guys that can just put the ball on the floor and make a play consistently, I think is a little bit better than the OKC Thunder that we just saw in that series. But I do think it's going to be super interesting to see what kind of offensive game we get, because I think game 1 is going to be a lot slower, sloppier, because you got to think the Spurs coming off of a game 7 against Oklahoma City Thunder, emotional win, getting to the finals. Knicks have been off and haven't lost in about a month and a half. So I'm going to be interested to see what kind of San Antonio Spurs team we get. Young, inexperienced team coming off of a big emotional win in the game 7, getting into the finals at home. I think it's going to be a very close game. But the Spurs side of things, I think the key to this series is De'Aaron Fox. Because I think this is a really good series for De'Aaron Fox to get his and to get off. Because he changed the entire series for the San Antonio Spurs. Yes, the Spurs took game 1 without him in the cinema game that was. But the Stephon Castle turnovers you saw, that was just not going to sustain itself for an entire series. Him coming back into the lineup, being a steady hand at the point guard position, didn't look completely healthy until really that game 7. That burst he had in the middle of game 7, that was like, okay, De'Aaron, this is what we're used to seeing from De'Aaron Fox as a bucket getter, as somebody that can get downhill and make plays and be a scorer himself. But I do think this is the good matchup for him because even though, like I said, about Deuce McBride, Jalen Brunson, I think with all the attention Wemby's going to get all this Stephon Castle attention. Dylan Harper's going to have his moments. You have so many guys that can make plays for the San Antonio Spurs where I feel like De'Aaron Fox consistently gets like lost in the shuffle sometimes and then will pop off at the end of a quarter or a half like he did in Game 7. So I'm looking at De'Aaron Fox as somebody that can really rise to the moment. He might not have finals experience, but he's been in this league a while, a lot longer than a lot of the guys on the San Antonio Spurs. Been in a Game 7 against the defending championship team before in the Golden State Warriors. Now getting to his first NBA Finals, I think De'Aaron Fox can step up and be big time in this series because I think they're going to need him to be. I think he needs to take, anytime he has like Jalen Brunson on him, I expect him to be aggressive. No knock at Jalen Brunson, but he's just not that great of a defender, especially when you're talking about somebody as quick with the ball as De'Aaron Fox and as explosive as he can be. I think he needs to take advantage of some of these matchups that he can find himself in on the perimeter. I think he's the key to kind of unlocking the Spurs offense, like I talked about Karl-Anthony Towns, because of De'Aaron Fox being able to be steady with the ball, explosive downhill. I feel like he finally started to get his legs back underneath him in that Game 7. That's where we saw him kind of close that half off on a good note. And it was pretty solid throughout the rest of the game. So I'm looking at De'Aaron Fox to be the key of the series for the San Antonio Spurs going forward. But man, I think we're in store for a really, really good series. In my opinion, this is kind of like probably the two best teams in the league up to this point. I know OKC is OKC, but with all the injuries, I'm kind of glad it was the Spurs because like J-Dub's tried to come back from the hammy injury like 2-3 times in this playoff run. And he's not been able to make it past a game or two in this entire playoffs. And with AJ Mitchell dealing with the calf thing, I think they were going to probably rule him out for the rest of the playoffs as well, unless something crazy happened. But we know how those calf situations can go. So I'm kind of glad it is Spurs from a neutral fan that it's Spurs Knicks because Spurs are the more healthy team right now. And the Knicks are also the more healthy team right now. So I think we have two really good healthy teams going into this matchup. Both sides, I feel like, have avenues and ways to kind of dominate this series. So I'm very interested to see these two first games because the first two games are really like the feel out games. But San Antonio Spurs have lost Game 1 at home to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They've dropped a game at home already this playoff run. I would not be shocked coming off an emotional Game 7, an inexperienced team. I can't even really use the word inexperienced, but coming off that emotional high of getting to the finals for a young core and a young group, I think the Knicks can kind of take advantage of that and go in Game 1 and kind of punch them in the mouth and tell the world, we're here. I know they got Wemby. I know they took out OKC. But I think the Knicks are a team that cannot be messed with. I was hearing too much of Spurs, OKC. Oh, this is the finals. Whatever happens in the finals, this is the finals matchup. No. Because in my opinion, with OKC currently constructed, the Knicks would have took care of business if OKC would have won that Game 7. I think the Knicks would have took care of business. So I'm looking at this series as like, I think the Knicks are a real threat to win this. A lot of people were on OKC or the Spurs. I think the Knicks are a real threat to win this. I was picking them before the season started, and I'm going to pick them in this series. I think the Knicks get it done, but they got to get it done in 6 games. You got to get it done in 6 games because that San Antonio crowd in a Game 7, with how Wemby just showed his ass in a Game 7 in OKC, it will get scary in 7. I got to have the Knicks in 6. I think that this is a really good finals matchup. Two teams that are really deserving of it. The Spurs in this new age and the future is now. We're here and ready right now, even though we're still a young core. And the Knicks are like, we have this window out east and we finally broke through and got to the finals. We have to capitalize on a young team like the Spurs. So I think both sides are desperate for it. But we got to throw some respect on the Knicks. I know Wemby and SGA and everything that was the Western Conference Finals, but the Knicks been taking care of business for over a month and a half now. And we got to put some respect on the Knicks. I'm going the Knicks in 6 games to close it out in the Garden like I had it preseason. The Knicks were my pick going into the year with Karl-Anthony Towns being the Finals MVP. My take is still alive. But, man, I'm just hoping we get some beautiful basketball. I hope we get no injuries. I hope we just are able to see these two teams come out here and hoop. My prediction for Game 1, to just throw it out there, I think the Knicks take Game 1 and they split going to the Garden. Those are my take on the first 2 games and kind of my preview going into the series, a key player for the San Antonio Spurs and a key player for the New York Knicks in this series. That's all I have for you guys in this finals preview. Thank you guys for tuning into the Barrel Talk podcast. Hope to see you tune in to future episodes.